Then and now, we got the crown when we rock the town. Hot sound keep us breaking ground while we chillin' lounge. 3 generations, black nerd soldiers, podcast snipers trying to pop.
Hello, everybody. Dracarys. Welcome to the Then and Now podcast. I'm your illustrious co-host. We'll get back to it. Oh, we're gonna say it again. My vocabulary. Come on now. You guys educate yourselves now. You got to get more than one language now. Come on now.
That was Valerian. Okay.
High Valerian. Come on now.
That was High Valerian?
High Valerian.
Sound like regular Quickie Mart.
Quickie Mart is crazy.
We're gonna get already 4 seconds in. That's not a new record. It's
Sure, own people, guys. I am Captain Diesel. I have with me Lelouch V and Professor E King of the Comics. If you guys are here for the first time, this is the Then and Now podcast, and we do talk about dope stuff. Today, though, we are going to be talking about a show that has been highly anticipated and that is very, 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 I don't want to say polarizing, because I think it's been mostly positive reviews since the first season. But yeah, we're talking about House of the Dragon, y'all. The 8th episode of the season just dropped literally, well, I will say tonight, but yesterday. And we are knocking out our review for it and kind of giving our sentiments over the whole show, because I don't think
that was the season finale. That wasn't just the 8th episode.
You're both right. You're both right. 8th episode and season finale.
It's valid. So it's over with now. I don't think we did any other parts or reviews for beforehand or during, so we're coming for it. Oh, Hogan, we coming for you. How were y'all thoughts? How were your thoughts?
That was a good impression, because he actually does say nigga down too.
Yeah, this is the first. I'm sorry for anybody watching this for the first time. We're random like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were your guys' general sentiments on House of Dragon season 2?
So,
oh god, here you go.
It was good.
Right go.
I enjoyed it overall, but it did not meet the expectations that they kind of built for themselves. Like, I mean,
yeah,
the way Rhaenyra looked at the end of that first season was, it's time for war. And then this whole season, we get her saying, like, I don't want to go to war. Can we not go to war? Can I scare him out of a war? Like, and then, like, yeah, like, essentially, there was one scuffle. She wasn't in it. Like,
how much of that was like what fans wanted and like the fan expectations versus what they were conveying? Because all they showed was like her face or look a certain way at the end of the episode, and everybody took that as scorched earth, like shit's about to be done for.
Well, I mean,
because even in the advertisements and promo for it, they didn't like they didn't promote it as like scorched earth. They promoted it as like another season.
Right. No, you're fair. And also, it's a book series, too. Obviously, the book already exists.
Right.
The book knows what happened. But to Otis's credit, what he's saying is, literally, we're getting into some spoilers, obviously. At least some for season 1, if you're here. The way she looked when Daemon, because we couldn't hear nothing, couldn't hear any words, sound was removed. When Daemon came up and said, look, sorry, but your baby boy or your son, one of your sons, was violently killed. And her acting was from behind was so perfect. You could tell that she pretty much just fell out, and then she turned around and looked, and she just had all kinds of daggers in her eyes. So just that alone, it did seem like she was ready to murder everyone, everything, everywhere. Then early on, and I think it was the first episode of this season, she goes and she sees his body. Maybe the second episode. She sees his body.
The first one.
Sees it. It's the first episode. Okay. She actually sees his body, right? His dead body, and she loses. She breaks down crying. Her and the dragon break down crying, essentially, right? So clearly, a mother in extreme mourning. Yeah, that's. Well, watch out.
So also, look, we'll get into this because I don't feel like mourning necessarily means rage. Because so we can get into like some general themes for the season, because I think there's a lot of recurring stuff in the season, and the main thing that I gathered from Rhaenyra specifically was her desire to not have any more of her people die. Because from what I gathered, after she went through seeing her baby boy's body, the rest of the season, it felt like she was trying to protect Jace and protect the rest of her family from having to die. She's like, I could easily go into this war, but if I do, everyone else is going to die. And my even more of a key example of that is that she was even willing to like go out there on her by herself to fight and die versus sacrifice anyone else. Like when her son wanted to go fight, she was like, no, you're not going to go. But in multiple occasions, she tried to tell her council, I want to go fight. And they were like, what the fuck? No. It's like, we're doing this for you. We're not going to do that.
And then old girl went in her place. Said, no, you can't go. You're the queen. That's when it's done. I'll go out there. And then she got clapped. That's true. I think one thing, though, too, is that she's still very much, I think that another thing that came, a bigger overarching theme was the idea of power, her wanting the throne. And it was kind of a Game of Thrones between her brothers, Aemond and Aegon, and then her uncle, Daemon. Essentially, the four of them kind of all vying for the throne, which Aegon sat on. That was essentially his, regardless of how he deserved it. So it was, in some way, if she could basically have the throne without having to have bloodshed, that's what she wanted most, more or less. It seemed like.
To take that one step further, because the memes were funny. The Harrenhal memes are funny, where this man Daemon was like in Harrenhal tripping on shrooms for 5 straight episodes.
He was out of his mind for the whole season.
The reoccurring thing that I gathered from that was also very applicable to other characters, especially with Aemond at the end of the season, was what you expect your destiny to be and you expecting to how you expect to rule versus how the world and the land in its natural nature is going to have you play your part. Because Daemon went there seeking all kinds of power and on a low ski looking to overthrow Rhaenyra at some point, and literally went through all this trauma. And by the last episode, he had just became content with his role in things. Like as he saw the future through the visions or whatever else. And in the final episode as well, when you see Aemond speak with Helaena on the balcony, he's like, hey, I want to rule. He's kind of giving that same similar spiel of like his need for power and needing her help to obtain that power. And she's like, she essentially was saying like, you think you're more important than you actually are. I've already seen the future and you were going to get swallowed up in your ego and your pursuit for the throne. And you're going to die. Like you're irrelevant, essentially, down to a lot of things. And there's nothing you can do to change that, no matter how much you want to fight that. And with Rhaenyra, she's like the one out of the three to where she isn't like, she wants the throne, but she's not as thirsty for the power of it as Daemon and Aemond are, or Aegon.
Why do you think she wants the throne as much?
I think she just wants to, one, to put things at peace, and two, to carry on the legacy of her father. Because keep in mind, the big point of the first season was the matriarchy and the patriarchy kind of fighting one another in regards to, she felt like she could carry on her father's legacy and he didn't need a firstborn son. But he was still in that hot pursuit of that firstborn son because that's the way things work in the patriarchy. Mm-hmm. So I think by the end of the season, once she was named the heir, she was like, okay, cool, I'm going to carry on my father's legacy, who was probably the best king, at least in that point in time, because he's leading in a time of peace and kept the peace and kept people happy for a long time.
So I think that's
what I see her motivation as being mostly, is like the whole aspect of like
I do think it's still ego. I don't think it's quite that altruistic. I think there's ego involved. Anyone that when it comes to a crown, people want to have, like, she feels like it was due to her, more or less.
Right.
And yes, she did love her father very much, and for the most part, she would try to carry on his name. But as it was pointed out, this finale by Alicent, she has always been the rebel. She's always been kind of wanting to do things her way, do things different. So I see her kind of carrying that tradition on. Because remember, Viserys was kind of known as basically not the weak, but he was known for being essentially kind of soft and kind of
pacifist
guy, yeah, which isn't the most powerful way to be seen in a way. And so she didn't want to be carried on as that. She didn't want to be thought of as being weak like her dad was. So she could be different. So she did want to honor him, yes, but I think she wanted to kind of almost in a sense bring even more honor to the name with her way of handling things, possibly too.
I'll get back to that in a little bit, but before I do, Lelouch, what are your thoughts?
I don't think her strides for the crown are all that altruistic either. Because I mean, if her goal was more so about keeping peace and maintaining the status quo, she would have been more than okay just being the queen regent and letting Daemon be the king, because I mean that's easier for the public to digest. She was very adamant about I am the queen. I was who was named. It should be me. So I'm not saying that she like was as power hungry as like like Aemond is, or anyone in the green sect, because like they it's like okay,
Turn themselves apart, boy.
literally, like
Yeah.
but I don't think that she is like just like, oh, I'm doing this solely for the people. Like she wants to be known as the first real queen of Westeros.
Which is highlighted even further by the queen that never was, being essentially the hand in her before she's passed. So yeah, she don't want to follow the same footsteps as her.
The only thing that makes me second guess that slightly is the first season where initially I think she said she wanted to be a knight initially, or she did like her biggest thing. She just wanted to live her life and she didn't want to be married off was her biggest thing.
True.
Because her father was going to marry her off and she didn't want to like participate in the patriarchy at all in the first season. In this one, I understand y'all's standpoints in regards to like just letting Daemon rule, but I think even to an extent where she was talking to him about it, where she knows his nature and like how at that point it showed how ruthless he was and how much he acted off of like just pure raw emotion and murdered entire villages and entire groups of people, which was a main reason why he had so much issue gathering an army at Harryhole initially, because not just her, but like entire like sects of people in countrysides did not like him or saw him as an evil being because he just murdered all these people off of a whim or for his own pride, or Vegeta type shit. I think she just saw herself as the lesser of all the evils there, and she's doing it because she feels like she has to, because there's nobody better to do the job that won't be a evil tyrant. Because I feel like if Alicent would have been the permanent queen, she would have been cool with it and just let Alicent rock out because she understands she's not as power hungry.
Well, I mean, as was shown in the finale, those two have some bad blood. They were homegirls for real, way back in the day. But those days have come and gone.
That's because she's smashing her, but she's smashing her ex bulldog.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Her dad, then her ex.
Her ex,
Yeah. I'm not sure she knows about Christian Cole, but at least her dad.
I think she did because he turned on her.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, they are not tight no more. But it always did seem like even when she was younger as a teenager, she had ambition, so to speak. She had ambition. Like you said, she didn't want to be married off because she wanted to do her own thing. So I'm not saying that she was nefarious. I'm Team Rhaenyra.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like it's just I want to make things the most peaceful land, or I want to, like you said, the lesser of all evils. I'm sure she doesn't see herself as evil at all. She may see her brothers and her uncle as incompetent and stupid, but I don't think she sees herself. She sees herself in the same. She sees herself as above them. I'm guessing it's how she sees it.
Right. Because I want to get more into this season because I know we're gonna. Oh, God, I almost choking myself. We're gonna relate back to a lot of the stuff from the first season, but for this season in particular, obviously it wasn't as action packed as a lot of people anticipated. To Otis's point, but the one thing they did focus on really heavily that I did appreciate was all the development in the arcs that everybody was going on, because it felt like everybody had their own form of a character arc to some form or fashion, either through natural forms where it was them experiencing things with other people, like Alicent, or they were kind of forced to, like Aegon was, because it took his in his own words, his meat getting exploded like a sausage on a Barbie. Or something of the sort.
That's still completely his fault, because why did he go offline into that fight at all?
Again, ego.
Pride.
Yeah, it's all like you said, it's all Vegeta type shit. It's all it is. It's all a whole season of Vegeta type shit, basically. Daemon losing his mind, Aegon, Aemond blowing up his brother. All Vegeta.
I think that's been so if I had to say the first season's theme was more so like the women succeeding in the patriarchy, this season to me felt like a common theme of like men overcoming their pride, or like pride being the reason they were going through strife. Because you look at all the Targaryen men, and then you look at like Sir Christian Cole by the end of the season, I feel like either men like a Christian Cole or Daemon kind of got over their pride and put that to the side for the greater good of stuff, or you saw the men that just like were still just like enthralled by it, and that either led to them directly having a direct comeuppance of that, or with Aemond fuck it's coming. down the line
because
of stuff.
Because Aegon too. Aegon did listen to his counsel. He actually left. Like the guy, I can't remember.
Yeah, at the end, yeah.
He did actually leave too. So you're right. It was kind of a character arc for a lot of the dudes who were extremely egotistical earlier on. They kind of all had to they were humbled. Even your boy Aemond was humbled in the last episode, which actually was my favorite one for the season, where he hopped on his dragon, ready to tear down Ulf on his, and he saw, oh my gosh.
He thought she was sweet. I was like, nah, turn back around, buddy. He thought she was sweet. Even to the point, though, even with the side characters, because they kept, in every episode, they would go back to, I can't remember this guy's name, but he was one of the dragon riders.
Hugh and Ulf.
Not you, but the other guy, the bearded man that like stood up.
He was the bearded one, and then Ulf is the wild card. Yeah, the dude.
Because they showcased you throughout the entire season having this thing of like him wanting better for himself to take care of his family, but by the end, his wife being like, "You don't need to have all that. I need you." He was like, "No, but I want more for myself. I need this like sense of nobility." And it was, again, when it just felt very, very, very clean for them to kind of like beat that theme over your head throughout it, and it being somewhat consistent with all the men and to an extent with some of the women. Because it felt like literally this season, it felt like all the women of the show, or at least for the most part, outside of like Rhaenyra, really were not egoless, but were willing to let a lot of their ego go. And you just saw these men as being relentless to their pride and their ego, and that like getting them into trouble throughout the series.
Yes, they all had some kind of a downfall because of their pride. Aemond's was the least, essentially. He didn't get hurt up and anything like that, but yeah. Right. You're right.
Even Corlys at one point.
Yeah, Corlys very much got. He called your boy Corlys. Was it Alan? Alan said, "Listen, man, you were the most deadbeat non-prison dad ever. Get out of my face." He's like, "Oh my gosh, he just take it." Basically, yes, you're right about that. But it was, I can't remember her name. What's her name? Charlie Otis, the woman that Rhaenyra, like, it was kind of her, basically became her hand after Olga got killed. Right? The one that she made out with real quick. She had the idea for her to kind of put it out there to all the bastards to kind of, that are willing
I'll look her name up while y'all talking. Go ahead.
Yeah. But it was even earlier on this season where she was getting ready to leave, and then she kind of put her ego aside to come back and actually work with Rhaenyra, serve with her. Rhaenyra put her ego aside too to kind of do this whole plan with getting bastards, breaking the wheel and having a whole new system put into place. Alicent broke her pride by kind of, going to Rhaenyra and asking her for her help, essentially. So it was very much an idea of not just the men, I think, but also the women kind of getting past themselves, trying to look at a bigger picture the way they weren't at the beginning of the season. Which was
her name was Mysaria, the white one.
Mysaria.
Mysaria.
Yeah, thank you. No, you're right, Mysaria. Yeah, she was cool. I didn't notice with Mysaria. I'm sure you all did. Y'all younger eyes, and she has a big old like hangman scar on her neck.
Yeah,
I was sure. I missed that.
I think she said in the show that she like was they attempted to murder her for stealing when she was younger.
Yes, but I didn't know that they tried to hang her. That happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Lelouch, what were your thoughts and sentiments on obviously the lack of action? Do you feel like you feel like you have to enjoy this season even though there wasn't as much carnage as you were hoping for? Mike's muted.
Can you hear him, Charlie?
No, it's Mike's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah. So I mean, I found the season enjoyable overall. I would have preferred, like, even if it wasn't as much action, I just would have preferred seeing everybody, like, making intentional choices more than just, like, like, it felt very stagnant this season. Like, it felt like everybody was, like, kind of trying to figure out what their life was. And we had, like, the one episode of action with, like, Rhaenys going off to the battle to encounter Daemon and Aegon eventually. And then you get to see, like, Christian Cole's reaction to seeing dragon warfare that, attributes to his overall character development. But like, I wanted more to like feel impactful. Like, I feel like the biggest climax of this season was, well, after, of course, the battle where Rhaenys and her dragon, are off, and Aegon is
Vermax.
It might be Vermex. But like the climax of the season was the conversation between Rhaenyra and Alicent, the airing out their family issues or further, their entire lives essentially. Like nothing of note really happened. Like, I mean, yes, like factions kind of were splintered a bit, but like I don't feel like anything that really like majorly shaped the world happened this season. I feel like they are building up to like those things happen next season.
Yeah.
But this kind of felt like a filler season overall to me.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very forgettable. Without, like, I don't know how many seasons this show's going to get. I hope it doesn't get a whole 8 like the last, like Game of Thrones did. I hope this at max, like maybe like 5, maybe I think would be a good amount for this show. 4 or 5, maybe. Even that may be a little too long, but
it's a smaller book series. Yeah, it's a much smaller series.
Yeah, I'm hoping this is more than likely going to be like a footnote in the grand scheme of the series whenever we go back and look at the whole thing. But I will say that this season may be one of the more important ones from the aspect of building so many relationships out and setting up so many things down the line. Especially with a lot of the side characters, they paid a special attention to these side characters, and how the thing that I really enjoyed the most was showing how the actions of the elite affected the small folk that they said that they called them. We went to that a lot in this season and saw how they like looked at them, how important that can be, and I think that's going to play a big part in the future of the series. Because they kind of like fucking Game of Thrones, like the common folk were kind of neglected for most of the series. Like you kind of had the brothel, you had the courtesans a little bit, and you maybe had like the shame scene where oh my god, I'm blanking her name right now. Cersei, yeah, she got walked through the streets. But besides moments like that, you didn't really get a lot of attention to how the regular people felt about everybody else. I saw like maybe like some starvation here and there, like with this season.
Yeah.
But the emphasis on them and how they play a part into the overall thing and bringing them in to be Dragon Rider, I thought was interesting. And the thing that I love the most is the fact that allegiances are not set in stone so far. Although Rhaenyra got some Dragon Riders, it seems like 1 or 2 of them may only, like you can sway them with coin maybe, or they don't stand on principle as much. Like the one guy who was very much so like he didn't have no house training for he didn't have no home training. Like he just seemed like, oh yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah, I'm just here because I get to live like a king and not be poor anymore. So it's like he can be easily swayed, or maybe Hugh can be easily swayed. Like everybody's motivations aren't set in stone, and we've seen that throughout the season, especially with like certain knights switching sides back and forth, with, like the brothers, and how literally Daemon was thinking about and willing to betray Rhaenyra to take her spot and knock her off initially. So I'm excited to see how those relationships play out.
I like how that was highlighted in the episode before. How was it Masera? Not Masera. Is it pronounced Masera? Her name?
Masera's not the white arm.
Yeah. The
Rhaenyra's a pseudo hand.
Yes. Yeah. How she's pretty much like the elites. How Rhaenyra was talking about the honor of the elite, essentially. And she said, what honor is there with the elite? The elite do all kinds of shady stuff. And she's worried about having the small folks being involved with the kind of lottery for the dragons. They can be just as dishonorable as anybody else. And Addam showed that when she went there, she challenged him and his dragon. The first thing he did immediately was drop to one knee. And she had no idea what to do with that, because she never saw something like that happen ever in the history of time in her life. So it's interesting to see that actually the small folk, like you said, can actually have even more honor than the big folk, so to speak. But yeah, there can be some dumbasses too, like Ulf. Very much is a dumbass. But it seems like Hugh reminds me a lot of David Harbour or Hopper's character in season 1 of Stranger Things, where he loses his daughter, then kind of loses his honor, loses his mind, and he kind of gets it back by the end of the season. It seems like Hugh wants to have a purpose. Hugh wants to matter in some sense. So yeah, it may be something where Hugh actually does remain loyal to the Targaryen house, and Ulf kind of does his own thing. They end up fighting each other. Who knows? But I agree though with what you're saying though. It seems like this seems kind of like a setup season as opposed to actually having things really take shape. The first season was very much, it was moving at a pace. Every episode, something impactful, something major happened. Every single episode of the first season. This one is a lot of kind of like, it was pretty stagnant in lots of ways.
That being said, in regards to the dominoes being set, for lack of a better term, if you guys had to guess about who's going to turn coat, or as Daemon said in the episode, who's going to turn cloak, who would your predictions be as far as who's going to betray whom for the next season? I'm going to vote Helaena. I think Helaena for sure is about to switch up. I think she damn near all but like said she's going to switch up at this point.
Who's she? Is she with the Tully house now? Is she loyal to that?
She's with the Greens because she was married off to Aegon. She was pretty much like forced to be with him essentially because she was like one of the only Targaryen women there, so she had to marry her brother.
Okay.
But like she made it very apparent from like the beginning of the show where her son was murdered, and she literally just like sacrificed her son up because she was scared that he was going to be too much like his dad. She's like, yeah, you can have buddy. As long as I got my daughter, I'm chilling over here. I really don't want to be here for real.
Well, she tried though. She did try. She said, "It's that one over there." And they're like, "Wait a minute, no, she's lying. She's saying that one's the son."
No, she didn't lie because remember, she said it's him right there, and Buddy thought she was lying, and then the other guy looked in her eyes. She's like, "Oh no, she's not lying. She's telling the truth."
Is that how it played out? I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah, because they thought she was gonna like play a trick, but she was like, "Nah, I hold my daughter." Because they were grooming the son to be like the next king, and he was like the son was kind of being like an asshole.
Yeah,
so you saw like, the early signs of it.
Yeah. It's just so long ago. I can't remember. Gosh, my old man brain.
I had to watch it like 3 times for reviewing it for somebody else's pod that they asked me to be on.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah, I watched this season more than I probably watched like the first 5 episodes like 2 times, maybe 3 times each.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Yeah. I watched them once a piece. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I that's a fair. It did seem very much like that conversation at the end in the season finale between Aemond and his sister. It seemed very much like she's like, I do not like you at all, and he's like, I can have you killed. I can have you killed. That's what she's pretty much saying over and over. It's like there's no love there at all. No love lost. Yeah, at the first chance she gets, she's trying to find a way to get out of there or betray him or whatever. She has no.
It was bucked at him. She was just like, do something.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. But which is cool to see her stand up to actually, as kind of, she may have seemed a bit aloof or neurodivergent or whatever, but she seemed very much like, yeah, I'm not afraid of you at all. I think you said step to me.
Yeah, that was really weird because to your point, like all throughout the show up until that point, she seemed like she was very much so like on her Luna Lovegood shit, where she was kind of like out of it, but like in that moment, she seemed very clear and like very like you're going to die. like I was like, okay, this is like a character switch up almost for her.
Yeah, and she called him out. She goes, "I saw you like you did with Aegon." He's like, "Huh?"
Aegon's like, "Yeah, I saw you do it."
I saw. He's like, "What?" It's like, so is she like a telepath or something? But yeah, so it's
a warg or something.
The war, yeah.
Yeah, I think she has abilities kind of similar to the Baratheon son from the guy that had that foresight in Game of Thrones. I can't remember his name for the wheelchair guy.
So there's one also too with the younger son that got pushed out.
About the Stark?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Stark. I said Baratheon.
Yeah, he was
the Stark.
Yeah.
Is that what the title is? I couldn't remember what the official title was. I thought it was the Raven.
Bran Stark.
Bran Stark. Yeah, it was a ward.
The Thread Raven guy.
Yeah. They showed her having like literally it showed her having that ability in the first 2 episodes because when the episode where like her son died, Aegon comes in and asks her like why she's scared, and she says the rats. And then by the end of the episode, like the rat.
Oh, right. That's right.
Like they set up her abilities pretty early on. Like, yeah, bro.
Which was also like if you knew these guys are coming to kill your kids, why didn't you move to a different room or do something to take action?
I don't think it's a thing where she like knows the entire future. She gets like feelings or she gets like flashes of stuff.
I see. Okay, fair enough. That's fair.
You know what I mean? Yeah, as turncoats, I don't know if I see too many turncoats necessarily, but I do see it's very clear that Alicent is not aligned with either of her sons. So, she's going to supply support to whoever can take them down at the time. whether it be, you know, Rhaenyra, whether her father comes back around and, you know, has some type of faction that he's pushing. Like,
Yeah. So what happened to her? I know it shows the High
He's
Tower.
in prison somewhere.
Yeah. Who arrested him? Like what? We didn't see.
I don't think they showed who
that?
did it.
Yeah. Okay.
They showed him in a cell and like a light being
Showed him in
shot
a
on.
cell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show me so briefly, very briefly. It's like what? Yeah.
I thought they like through the editing they were trying to like allude to like she had her locked, like Allison had him locked up because she like
think she would ever
they
do
showed
that.
him. They showed him in the cell, and then the scene directly after was her walking out of the tower in her hood.
But I think that wasn't that. I thought that was her walking out of Rhaenyra's tower.
No, she was back home at that point.
She was.
I'm pretty sure.
She may have been. The thing is, the fact that we're both uncertain means probably the editing was a little wonky, but that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, because I just like want to talk about it at this point. So I'm like,
Yeah, it's late as
thoughts as best I can.
And I'm old. It is late. All fair. Real quick, I want to say
I'm trying to remember all 8 hours of this content for this show.
yeah, it's just a lot. But on that note right there, what would y'all say is like a highlight though? The highlight of the season. I've been talking the show out for a little bit. What's some of the highlights of this season for y'all?
Oh, the highlight was the funniest shit to me was Seasmoke. My boy Seasmoke was like, ugh. You think these white people get on me? Where my Negroes at? where are my Negroes
the brother's dragon's name is Seasmoke. Like, it sounds like it's like the most like it's like a chain of cannabis made by a Snoop or something.
Right, buddy was like, the fuck, get off me. Hey, bro, come here. You on me. Let's go.
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, I was fucking around. In all seriousness, it had to be the scene where Rhaenyra in the first episode where like she went back to her son after her youngest child had died, and that interaction where he's trying to be strong and trying to like, yeah, I did such and such, I've gathered the support of such and such, and you just slowly see him breaking down. Like that was probably like the best acting that I've seen in the show so far. It was like that genuine like sadness and the slow breakdown until like her like them both hold each other and crying. That was like the highlight for me at least.
The point.
I mean, I'll be the typical one. I mean, the highlight was the battle, right? Like, I mean, that was nobody saw Rhaenys's death coming before that episode started. Even to the point where, like, I feel like she deserved maybe a little bit more attention before that moment happened to make that death a little bit more impactful. They were beautifully shot. I mean, the dragons are animated in a way that you can almost see them being real. Like, I mean, that felt like a very intense battle where, you know, there were actual stakes, which there were. Like, I mean, the series was most impacted by that moment this season, in my opinion. I feel like the majority of the show was like, you know, either build up to that fight or the aftermath of that fight. And, you know, how the character dynamic of in Westeros was affected by that. I wanted to see more of that. I was praying that like the way they were alluding to, you know, the Battle of Harrenhal. I was hoping we get like to see like a few seconds of that before the season finale ended. Well, that's right.
Let's do highlights now. Do highlights. Yeah. Do highlights.
Yeah, the highlight was the battle.
No, I agree. That was a dope battle. Of course, I figured one of y'all mentioned that is, and it was the way it was handled too. And I didn't see it going down that way. I didn't see. To give it. The name was Viserys. Her name, the old girl.
Rhaenys.
Give her some. Rhaenys. I'm sorry, Rhaenys. Give her some shot. I mean, she was able to pretty much take on that big ass dragon for a long time, and she took on. It was at one point it was like 2-on-1, and she was doing her thing.
I think she was like beating him at one point, but then
she was.
Aegon bitch ass came through and like fucked shit up.
Yeah, you know, if it was a 1-on-1, she probably would have had him.
She could have left.
She could have left.
She used to leave, and she was like, "Nah, we going back."
Be a warrior.
But if she had left, though, pretty much all those soldiers would have been cooked. All their team, there would have been no hope for them at all. So yeah, I see what she did today. For me, actually, the highlight, my favorite episode was the penultimate episode of episode number 7, where we're seeing Rhaenyra kind of stand there on the peak, but having 3 dragons behind her. I was like, that's fire. and seeing Aemond for the first time, turn chicken shit, and since I don't know how long, actually turn around that asshole. So yeah, that was a highlight of highlights for me.
He getting too big for his britches now. Oh, I was like, hold on now.
Way too big. Look at his brother.
Wait a minute now. Calm that shit down, boy.
Way too big.
Oh, I will say, last thing I will say about the show before we get into the breaking for the season, I'm low-key kind of scared that they want to attach this too much to the events of Game of Thrones. Because that long-ass flashback we got with Aemond seeing visions of the future and literally seeing Daenerys hatching the dragons and all the shit from like the White Walkers. I'm like, why are we focusing so much on stuff that's happening in 100 years? Where there's nothing you can do now to like prepare for that, because we know everything you do is kind of not, because the world's still going to be separated by that point in time. So I'm like, what's the point of like focusing so much on this flashback and make it like, it felt like the show was building up to like that reveal for Daemon just for it to be like, okay, I don't think it matters. I assume there's going to be like, maybe the White Walkers have popped in this show and we didn't know it, or for a little bit, I don't know, but I'm scared they're going to fuck it up. Because I think one of the benefits of the show was the fact that it didn't have to be connected to Game of Thrones. At least vaguely had to be vaguely connected, but for the most part, you can do your own thing. If you're about to just connect this to that season or to that part of this franchise so much so, I'm going to be very disappointed, because now you're going to
they shouldn't.
You're going to handcuff yourself to having to do certain things to make it make sense.
Yeah, because it's hundreds of years, like 125 years, or I guess now about 100 years, essentially.
He said it's like 100 years. Yeah.
100 years now because of the age. So, but yeah, there's no reason. None of that stuff should be connected. It shouldn't be. None of them should be alive. There's even a part where they said, it's an old boy's name, but Tywin Lannister, and he said, no, it's Tyler or something like that. But it's like they clearly said Tywin at one time. It's like
it's Tywin.
No,
this is
yeah, but it's like
no. Tywin was the Lannister in Game of Thrones. His name was like Tyrod.
Tyrod, yeah, because they do call him Tywin. He's like, no, it's not that. He corrects them because he's like, no, because it pretty much was a fan service essentially having them call him Tywin. It's like no, yeah. So I don't want them to say. I want them to be like you said, Deb. I want them to be its own entity, self-contained, remain free of any and all things Game of Thrones proper. I don't want that to happen either. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so we gonna see how that goes, man.
Yeah, but getting over to the scoring.
Yeah, how many? What was it called? Basco? How many Bascos?
Oh my God, I hate y'all niggas so much. I will give this season like a smooth 7 Bascos out of 10 for me. I enjoyed watching it week to week, and I think the highlights of it were very fun to see. Episode 8, episode 7 being the main one, but I think it did drag for episode 6 and 5 really significantly, because 1 and 2, I'm like, okay, it'll be a slow build up to shit popping off, because Rhaenyra's dealing with grief and all that kind of stuff. But once we got to episode 7 with all the dragons, and then we get into 8 and 50 minutes in, and I'm like, bro, we got 30 minutes left and nothing's really happened crazy so far. And I don't think anything crazy is going to happen. I'm like, okay, cool. They're really just going to let us sit on our hands for another year or two until the next season comes out. Yep.
Yeah. For a finale, that was a very lackluster finale. I'll give you that. Nothing really. I mean, it was all set up. It was all set up. Yeah. I'm right there with you, Dave. I'm gonna give it 7 Bascos as well. The one thing I noticed too, I saw online, is how little interactions there were between some of the main characters. We saw 2 conversations between Rhaenyra and Alicent, and I get it's going to be the powerful forces, but it's kind of like that was when those 2 actually were in the same room. That was awesome to see them actually have their interactions. The best interaction of the season was those 2, but a lot of time we saw them kind of like you said, kind of sulking around by themselves or doing some other, looking kind of stupid in some capacity. I want to see more of them doing stuff. I want to see more of the dragons actually, like you said, fighting or doing whatever. I get it's expensive, but that's the name of the show. It's House of the Dragon. It is the promise of the premise. In the books, they fight a lot too. They're meant to be around more than they are in Game of Thrones. The whole point. So
Alicent and Rhaenyra, I'm not as mad at, but I definitely want to see more of Daemon's daughters. Is her name Jasper, the one that's married to Rhaenyra's oldest son,
Chase.
and then the one that was like she's essentially looking for a dragon from like literally the entire series. She gets sent off to like go look for one.
Yeah, she finds one at the end. The very end.
She finally finds it. I'm like, y'all shipped her off for the entire episode. We flashed back to her like 4 times, and the other daughter literally just served to like make sure Buddy wasn't pouting throughout the entire series.
Pretty much.
Like they served no purpose for most of this season, which was kind of sad to me because you made such a big deal out of like women in a patriarchal society in the first season just to only have these 2 women be side characters essentially. Which again, maybe they'll have more impact for sure. The youngest, the other one that has a dragon, that'll be more impactful because they at least she better be because you spent 5 episodes out of the season of her looking for a dragon and finding one finally. So again, maybe next season is a season where everybody that we want gets shine, but this season they were just irrelevant.
I mean, they did more than what's her face, Helaena, essentially.
Helaena too. You know what really pissed me off too is when they discussed in the last episode of like how OD strong Helena's dragon was, and how it's like a derivative of like the Aegon the Conqueror's dragon. I'm like, so she has probably outside of Vhagar the strongest dragon here. But she is just like chilling and like does not want to even. Which again, that may be a bigger moment next season too. But I'm just like, all the people that could have really made a big difference this season, you kind of like kept off to the side. Daemon, his daughters, Helaena, like everybody was just like chilling.
Yeah, Daemon's going crazy for like 5 episodes.
Yeah, like I can't remember his name. The black guy dealing with his sons that he
Corlys.
Corlys. Like. He had like 2, maybe 3 conversations with Rhaenyra this whole season. He's supposed to be her hand.
Well, he didn't become the hand till like halfway through the season, though. Because most of his interactions were with Rhaenys, and then she died. And after she died, he was like, "I'm depressed now. I don't want to speak." Until I think it was episode 6 where his granddaughter like had to force him to like, "My nigga, get it together. Get your shit together, bro."
Yeah. So what you gonna rate it, the Otis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mirroring you guys. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't a bad season. I mean, I feel like the character development was pretty strong. Well, it was the strongest part about this season. You know, for the people that really got like to have an arc. But yeah, this felt like more of a prep for something than an actual like follow-up season to like one of the biggest IPs on the planet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like everybody.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It just was a little lackluster.
Especially when you think about like how they kept the normal Game of Thrones cycle together, where like at the end of every episode, there's a million memes going around about it. Everybody's talking about it. It's like you still got all the hype that you normally would get around this show or this IP, and it was just kind of like, eh.
I mean, in the first season, that's the thing. The first season delivered. The first season, there was no. Every episode was a banger. I was like, how is this possible?
Granted, I think they had to start that way with how the Game of Thrones did.
Sure, but they still did it. That's the thing.
Right. But I digress. But yeah, y'all, this is our scores for it again. If you disagree with any of our rankings and ratings for the show, you think we were completely wrong about stuff, you have any corrections for us, please let us know. We are not beyond reproach and beyond being wrong, especially with regards to names, because we do fuck up names here at the In and Out Podcast.
I wasn't trying to call you out, man. But if I don't do it, somebody else will.
Hell, not just me, old nigga. It's you too.
No, yeah, I do. Of course. I forget names. I forget my own name twice a day.
Let's say, y'all. This has been Captain Diesel, Lewis V, and Professor E, King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy of the Then and Now podcast. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
That's cool.
You, Warner Brothers.